everyone. Before we get started, I want you all to look at something. Now, without me saying a single word, you already know what this is. A face. Not because of detail, realism, or any shading that isn't there, but because as humans we share a visual vocabulary, a kind of silent language, one we all understand, even if we never studied it or ever really learned it. And the interesting thing is, most of us don't realize how fluent we already are in this language. Recently, I watched a TED Talk by Christopher Nyman titled, "You Are Fluent in This Language and Don't Even Know It." Nyman is a designer and illustrator, and instead of just telling the audience that pictures communicate meaning, he shows them in real time. As an aspiring illustrator myself, I don't always gravitate towards minimalistic or abstract work, but this talk shifted something for me. It reminded me that detail isn't what makes art meaningful, connection is. Now, what fascinated me most wasn't just the message, but how Nyman delivered it. He didn't open with technical talk or a resume list, he opened with a story. He says, and it's so oddly specific, I love it, "I could never sleep on airplanes. What I do occasionally is I fall into a sort of painful coma." And immediately people laugh. Because who hasn't done that on a long flight, if you've ever been on one? Then he follows it with a simple drawing, and suddenly the joke isn't just heard, it's seen. And every time the audience laughs, he isn't just entertaining them, he's building trust. Humor becomes the bridge. Instead of presenting himself like an expert lecturing from a pedestal, he feels like a person sitting next to you saying, "Hey, you get this. You've already been speaking this language your whole life." That subtle emotional appeal, that pathos, is part of what makes the message land. Now, Nyman is accomplished. His work has been featured in The New Yorker, a magazine known for iconic illustrated covers, but he doesn't shove these achievements at the audience to prove credibility. He just shows a couple pieces almost casually, like, "Oh, and by the way, here's some of the things I made." He doesn't use success to distance himself. He uses it to say, if I can do this, you can too. That humility makes his ideas not just believable, but accessible too. Now, a key moment in the talk is when he shares something he calls the abstractometer. With it, he reduces complex images into simpler and simpler forms until the drawing barely resembles the original. And yet, we still recognize it. And that's the magic. The less detail he gives us, the more our brains tend to fill in the gaps. Now, as an artist in training, I'll be honest, I love detail. I love texture, realism, the tiny marks that show hours of care, and the technical training that goes into it. But Nyman helped me realize that sometimes simplicity leaves room for someone else's imagination. It invites participation. It says, I'll give you part of the story, and you give the rest, which is a little inspiring. Now, by the end of this talk, Nyman doesn't have to convince anyone that pictures communicate powerfully. He's already proven it. Not with the lectures, but with experience. People laugh, they nod, they understand. Not because the idea was explained, but because they felt it. And that's the brilliance of his delivery. Even the description of the video, where it has the script, you can see audience laughter so many times throughout the TED Talk. And watching his talk reminded me that art doesn't have to be complicated to be meaningful. Sometimes the simplest line, the simplest symbol or mark is enough to make someone feel understood. So, whether you consider yourself an artist or someone who can't really draw stick figures, I want you to remember this. You already know this language. You've been fluent since childhood, and the real question isn't whether you understand it, it's whether you'll ever let yourself speak it. And that has been my TED Talk. Thank you.